Hello, Year 5, and welcome to our final lesson in the series that we've been learning. This lesson is a lesson where we will just be reviewing all that we have learnt in the previous weeks. And so the question for this lesson is, what can we learn from life in Anglo-Saxon England? So as usual, we have some knowing more and remembering more questions for you. So please ensure that you have a piece of paper and a pen at the ready. And when you are ready, you can then press play and continue to begin to complete our questions. So I hope that you have a piece of pen, a piece of paper and a pen at the ready. Question 1. Ordinary Anglo-Saxon children had a lot of time to play, learn how to read and write, and to enjoy their childhoods. Is this true or is this false? Question 2. Where might a wealthy Anglo-Saxon child go to learn? Might they go to school, a private tutor, a monastery, or a university? Select which option you think that a wealthy Anglo-Saxon child would go to learn. Question 3. List 3 jobs an ordinary Anglo-Saxon child would do to contribute to community life. Last week's lesson will be of help in completing question 3. Let's see what you can recall from that lesson. Question 4. What does infant mortality rate mean? This term was referred to at the beginning of last lesson. If you're not sure, have a try. And then when you have had a try, you can press play and then you can check and see how close you were. Right, let's have a look at the answers. So, it is not true that ordinary Anglo-Saxon children had a lot of time to play, learn how to read and write and enjoy their childhoods. That is actually true of children today. And so that's true of you. And that is true of a lot of children who live in countries like Britain, where you have the privilege to play and learn how to read and write and enjoy your childhood without having to carry out a lot of tasks which are typically linked to being an adult. Number 2, where might a wealthy Anglo-Saxon child go to learn? A monastery. If you remember from last lesson, that was where wealthy Anglo-Saxon children would go to learn how to read and write, and that is where they would learn how to become a nun or how to become a monk. Now, list 3 jobs that an ordinary Anglo-Saxon child would do to contribute to community life. So if the child was female, they could contribute through weaving textiles on a loom or spinning wool or even cooking. And if they were male, they could contribute through hunting, farming, or metal working. The infant mortality rate refers to the number of babies who die in every 1,000 live babies that are born in an area. So if the rate is high, it means that many babies are dying in an area before they become 1 year old. Now, what can we learn from life in Anglo-Saxon England is the question for this lesson. To be successful, you need to be able to outline some aspects of Anglo-Saxon society. You need to be able to use some evidence to build up a picture of society in the past. You need to be able to recall, select, and organize historical information. You need to be able to demonstrate knowledge and understanding to meet my challenge for this week as well. So here is the knowledge organizer for the series of lessons that we have had so far. And I would encourage you to pause the slide here and have a read through and just refresh your memory of the key terms and the key concepts that we've explored in the last weeks of history. Now, I would like to draw your attention to this corner over here, which says substantive concepts. Now, this word simply is referring to concepts that have been of major importance in the last lessons, in the lessons that we have had. So really important concepts that we have explored, and these include the law, trade, religion, church, and power. So pause the slide, read through the knowledge organizer as a whole and refresh your memory, because that will come in handy for what you're going to have to carry out at the end of today's lesson. Now, key words that you know are religion, law, society, and slavery. And key concepts that you know from the series of lessons that we've just explored in history are hierarchy, status, trade, and agriculture, which is a concept which we have explored, but we haven't necessarily referred to it in that word. So we haven't called it agriculture. We've typically called it farming. Now, agriculture simply refers to the practice of farming, but it's broader. So it includes the cultivation, which means the preparation of soil for the growing of crops, and the rearing of animals to provide food, wool, and other products. So agriculture is a broader term than farming, which explores more areas that are related to it. Now, a person's life and their experiences, we've learnt in the series of lessons that we've had, depended heavily on their social status within the Anglo-Saxon society. Looking at the image that's on the right-hand side of the screen that we've seen throughout the lessons that we've had, who had this is meant to say the highest, meant to say the lowest social status? How do you know? And who had the highest social status? And how do you know? Take a moment and make a note of your answers. So press pause, make a note of your answers. When you're ready, press play and we will explore what the answers are. Okay, I hope that you have your answers ready. So who had the lowest, not the slow, the lowest social status? Well, we learned a few lessons previously that the people that had the lowest social status within this society were slaves, because they did not own their own labor. They had to work for free. They did receive a place to live and they did receive food. However, we know that they worked extremely hard and the conditions that they worked under were really, really difficult. Who had the highest social status? Well, you likely said the king, and this is correct. He had the highest social status, and we know this not only because he's at the top of the hierarchy here, but also because he had the most power within the society. Here we have a grid. Now, if it's a thing where we had been in class, you would have the opportunity to create a really detailed series of paragraphs where you were able to demonstrate all of the amazing knowledge that you had learnt in this series of lessons that we have had. However, because we are currently still at home, you are going to have the opportunity to demonstrate what you have learnt through completing the purple MASH quiz for this week. So rather than having you write paragraphs, these are going to be key areas within the Purple Mash quiz where you're going to be asked certain questions. You're going to have the opportunity to demonstrate what you can recall from the module. So one of the key areas that you'll be asked on is referring to the change in beliefs that happened in the Anglo-Saxon period from paganism to Christianity. You will also have an area that is looking at law and order within Anglo-Saxon Britain, and that will be looking at what the community carried out to enforce law and order and how trials happened and more. And then you'll have the opportunity to answer some questions looking at Anglo-Saxon slavery, and some questions relating to this lesson are here. Then you will have an area looking at women's work and children's work, and some questions to prompt your thinking are here. The evidence that we explored throughout these lessons is highlighted here. And then sentence openers that you would have used if you were writing these are here. And then word banks from these key areas are here. So I'd like you to pause the slides here, read through the information that's currently on the screen, because it will help you when you come to be answering the questions that you will be asked in your Purple Mash quiz for this week. When you have read through this slide, then you can press play and move on to the next slide. So we are learning all of the things that we have learned so that we can explore Viking Britain and the reputation Vikings had. Great job for completing our history lesson for this week and the independent task which you will be completing on Purple Mash. I look forward to seeing all of your hard work, and I will see you next week for next week's lesson.